Hi everyone, this is Grandmaster Eugene Perelshteyn, and together with chesslecture.com, I'd like to welcome you to today's video. Now today I want to share with you something very important that everybody can learn from their Blitz games online. And I don't mean bullet chess like 1 minute or 2 minute, I mean at least 3-minute chess, ideally 5-minute chess, and for some of you maybe even longer. And this game, I'm playing white against a player who is relatively high rated. He is a master online, so 2200 plus. Again, I don't know his real name, but it doesn't matter. You know, this is basically master level player. Yet, notice how instructive this game is, and we can learn a lot from it. So let's start. So I play the move d4, and my opponent immediately is in the aggressive mindset. He plays c5. So this is an invitation to some kind of old Indian type of battle after the move d5. For instance, he can play e5. And it's more or less positional battle where white has control over the center, black locks things up and tries to trade dark square bishops. For instance, if he plays e5, I was going to play c4, d6, let's say e4. Now they play bishop e7. And the goal is, since the bishop is stuck behind the pawns, to trade the bishops with the bishop to g5. So this is more or less what I expected. And my opponent shocked me once again. He plays the move f5. Well, this kind of setup I've seen only once or twice before, and it's usually employed by people who love to go for complications at the cost of their position. So you see, moves like that, guys, when you make a move like that and you're a master, you have to understand the drawbacks. And this game is absolutely perfect illustration of how to punish your opponent for violating opening principles. Okay, it is a playable move. I'm not going to say this is going to lose by force, but nevertheless, this is already the start on a very dangerous path because none of the pieces are getting developed. The king is getting exposed, especially on this diagonal. And moreover, the weaknesses in black's position could be really apparent if I open up the game. So in these kind of situations, remember, in blitz mode chess, you have to trust your intuition. If your intuition tells you to play positional chess, you play positional chess. If your intuition tells you to sacrifice and play aggressively, you gotta follow it through. And hopefully, I will teach you what my intuition taught me in this game, and you will get to use these ideas in your own game. So I simply develop knight c3. Again, my aim is to go for rapid development and to prepare e4 push, opening up the enemy king at the right moment. My opponent stops it with knight f6. So far, so good. And I immediately put pressure on the knight with the bishop g5. But given his aggressive nature, he plays the move queen b6, telling me, in fact, that my b pawn is unprotected. Again, a lot of you may start to get worried about this, right? You may think about, well, maybe I do need to play the move rook b1, maybe even queen c1. But guys, remember, you have to let go of this kind of defensive mindset sometimes. If you really think about it, how many moves is black going to take to win that pawn? In chess, this is worth time, or tempo, as we say, right? Queen's going to play to b6, take on b2. Is that developing any of the other pieces? No. Is that helping the king to castle? No. So basically, don't worry about it. Just develop. And that's what I played. Queen d2. Well, my opponent says, I might as well follow through with my plan. He takes on b2. I win the tempo of the queen. And now I get a free move to develop my pieces. So immediately, I could play the move knight b5. And obviously, that's the first move that popped into my mind. But things are actually not so clear. Even though it's attacking the queen and forking and the fork on c7, he can take on a2 and hit my rook with a tempo. In these kind of situations, guys, don't be sidetracked by trying to win material right away. Again, focus on development. Development above all. And so I simply play knight f3. Now I've got two knights, the bishop, and the rook already developed. In the meantime, black only has one knight developed. We don't even count the queens as developing pieces at the moment. So let's see what happens next. He plays g6, a logical move, trying to get the bishop out. And here I make a very interesting decision. I give up my bishop pair for doubling of his pawns. And why did I do that? Because I know that these two pawns will kill the bishop on g7. If I don't do that, and let's just go back one move, and he gets to play bishop g7 and later knight e4 or knight, g4 or knight h5, this bishop is really going to be putting a lot of pressure on my knight. So this is kind of preemptive strike if you think about it, but also I do win a tempo because after he takes with the pawn, once again, it's my turn. So really you got to pay attention to these tempo moves in chess. So now I just play e3. Now you could actually argue that maybe I could have been a little bit more aggressive with the move e4, and I will give you credit for that if you think e4 is just as good. End goal, guys, we have to expose the king while all the army is still asleep, and the lonely queen on a3 is not really a developing piece, it's more of a nuisance, and she's gonna get hit at some point by this knight b5 move. So first things first, I'm just gonna develop my pieces. Knight a6, d6. Now d6 is a really cool idea. Even though my pawn gets kind of deep into the enemy territory, notice what I'm doing. I'm killing the bishop on c8. This pawn can never move. And the other thing that I'm doing is you're going to see shortly, after the logical move bishop g7, he's about to castle. And if we give black two more moves and he plays b6, bishop b7, he may actually develop the rest of the army and claim to be up a pawn. But chess is all about time. Remember, we alternate moves. I am not going to give black that luxury. Bishop c4 was played. And now, believe it or not, I think black's position is more or less resignable. That's right. Even though white is down a pawn, he can never get his rook in the game. He can never be safe with the king. I mean, he can try maybe castling that way, but guess what? I already have the half open file. And all white needs to do, just castle, blow open the e-file, and checkmate black. And believe me, against a master, and this guy, is not a weak player, this works like a charm. So f4, he's really trying to get that bishop opened up. And guess what? Don't be greedy, guys. It's okay for him to take on e3 because it's only going to help you. But more importantly, just castle. And that's what I do. I don't care about pawns. I care about checkmating the king. So he plays f5, logical move. Now, finally, freeing the bishop and hitting my knight. But guess what, guys? Not a big deal. So here, I simply play knight b5, tempo move on the queen. But I should mention that another cool idea, I can simply take on f4 and say, please take my knight, it's free. Guess what happens next? Check, king d8, or king f8, checkmate on e7. So that could have been 14 move miniature, or maybe if you count until checkmate, even a little bit longer, but that would have been a really cool finish. Of course, my move, remember this is Blitz, there's no time to think. My move is just as good. Knight b5, tempo on his queen, queen a4, and queen d5. Same idea as before, checkmate, check, here, and mate. So I think, again, black is completely hopeless, and he has to do something about this threat. So he plays rook f8. I simply execute the idea of taking the pawn. Now the key idea is to bring the rooks to the e-file. And again, if you count the number of pawns, it's actually even now, right? But it feels like white has overwhelming advantage because black is playing down a rook and down a bishop, whereas all of white's army is in the game. So this is just a matter of time before black's monarch gets checkmated. So he plays h6. It's one of those moves that you just don't know what to do. You might as well make some kind of a general move. It doesn't do anything whatsoever. Check, king d8. Excellent move, rook e7, bishop f6. And now, guys, here's a question for everyone. How could you follow through with my attack? Right? You kind of have a general feel that white is better, but there's no forced win. At least I didn't see any forced wins. But there's very simple kind of rule of thumb way to continue the attack, and I'm going to give you some time to think about it. And if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. And the straightforward thought process here, guys, is involve every single piece in the attack. So notice that he's threatening my rook, but instead of thinking defensively, think about, wouldn't it be cool to take with check, forking these guys, and my rook is protected? And here I already saw a forced mate in sequence. So I double up. I knew that he's not going to take. He plays knight b4. And now, guys, another question for everyone. Why to play and find forced checkmate? If you see it, good job. If you still need some time, think about it. And by forced, I mean every move is check. And luckily for me, I already saw this idea because I solved hundreds, if not thousands, of typical back rank puzzles. And the idea, guys, we just need to clear up the back rank for my queen. And it all starts with the rook e8 check. Rook takes. Notice that I sacrificed the rook. And here he resigned, but the mate would have been really beautiful. Queen g8 mate. So that would have been a 21 move checkmate miniature against the master. Yes, you may say, oh, this is a blitz game. This doesn't really matter. But I will tell you that intuition is developed through blitz. That fast decision making where you have to trust yourself. You know, strong players are generally better in blitz than weak players. That's why there's a difference. Strong players have intuition. And notice what I did in the game. I didn't know this opening. He played a really rare line, yet I trusted myself. I sacked the pawn on b2 because I knew that I'm developing with time. I took the knight on f6, giving up the bishop pair because I knew time is of more importance than anything else. And then once the e-file got open, all I had to do is look for checkmating patterns. So following these basic rules and guidelines, whether you're playing blitz or real over-the-board chess, you will not go wrong. Thank you very much. This was Grandmaster Eugene Perelshteyn for chesslecture.com. Goodbye.